Most short films fall apart before the camera rolls. Setting up your film shoot for success is all about knowing the steps involved, which basically means being prepared, well prepared before you start shooting. So I will break down all the steps that are necessary so you feel well prepared, you know what you're getting yourself into, even if it's your first time, and also some things to avoid. So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariana from Switzerland. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, producer, and today's video is part 3 of my 6-part series on how to make your first short film. In part 2 of this series, we've talked all about scripts. If you don't have an almost or finished script, it's hard to go into pre-production fully, because you do need the finished script for other people to work on it. So those other people involve your crew, your head of departments, your wardrobe person, your art department person, and also of course your actors. Once you do your casting, they want to have the full script once they are cast. And in order to know which locations you need a finished script. That's a given. So once your script is finished, you can start breaking down your script. What does that mean and who does it usually? If you do have some crew, your first assistant director, I'm assuming it's the only assistant director on your first film, and that's fine, should do that. But you should also do it because you're all newbies, I'm guessing, so you should also know what's involved there and how to brief your AD. Breaking down the script means you make a list for every scene in the script. That can be chronologically and makes sense. And then you have scene number, if it's exterior or interior, so if it's set outside or inside, that's very important. Also when it comes to scheduling. With scheduling your shooting days, you should always plan for the exterior shoots first. If you have like 2 shooting days, of course, if it's like a weekend and you see the weather forecast is really terrible on the first day and great on the second day, then of course you put the exterior shoots on the day with a beautiful forecast. But for big film shoots, if you have like 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 shooting days, they always plan the exterior shoot for one location before the interior shoots. Why? Because of weather. So you have a second shot to reschedule if on the first day it rains or whatever. So that's just a general rule to bear in mind for all the films that you're gonna make. You also need to bear in mind not to have more than one company move a day. A company move is when you have to move your whole unit, all your cast and crew, from one location to the other. So of course, depending on how far apart they are, it's gonna vary, but still you have to wrap everything up and then move to the other location and then set everything up again. So it's very time consuming. So if you can avoid that, do. Once you've got your script broken down, you can move on to scheduling, budgeting, and looking for crew and actors. It's all kind of at the same time. Of course, you should just do your to-do list and work at one thing at a time, but in terms of timing, it's kind of hard to pick what to do first. So I would suggest you first do your script breakdown, so you already need your AD, and you should start looking for crew as early as possible before looking for actors, in my opinion, because you already need to have a feel of who's going to be on board, what the mood and the whole vibe of the film is going to be, and your other head of departments are going to help you with that. So that's why I suggest find your crew before you find your actors. Number 2, budgeting. Once you've broken down your script, you should be able to guess a little bit how many shooting days you need. And remember, I don't recommend more than 2 shooting days for your first film. So what goes into your budget? Transportation, feeding your crew and your costs. So you know how many costs you have once you've done your breakdown. And you can estimate how much crew you will have as well. So you can do a rough estimate of what your food is going to be costing each day. Remember, you have to feed your crew and cost a hot meal every 6 hours. That's non-negotiable. You should also have healthy snacks, good coffee, water, and so on, and some energy drinks maybe, and some fresh fruit if possible. So you can also go out to your friends and family and ask them for support. Maybe your mom wants to cook for you one of your shooting days, or both, or someone else you know. That would help a lot. So think about creative ways of how to get people involved, and they might also feel honored if you ask them specifically for something you know they enjoy. Like if you know that your mom enjoys cooking, ask her for that specific purpose. In order to calculate your transportation, you need to know about how many people are going to be on set, how many cars there are going to be, and be sure to have crew share cars. So not everyone drives in their own car to set with an empty car, but make sure that the cars are full so you don't have to pay as much gas. Also gear, of course, that's where your health departments come in, your camera person, lighting, your audio person, wardrobe, makeup. Those are things that cost normally for material, for gear. So you have to have a chat with them. Where are we gonna get our gear from? Is this available for the whole 2 days? Is insurance included? Yeah, never forget insurance. You need to have insurance for accidents that might happen for your gear. And you also need to make sure that you know how your gear is being protected. Like in Switzerland, it's not enough to have your gear locked in your car if your car is parked outside. So if your gear gets stolen from your car, even though the car is locked, it's not insured. On the other hand, if your car is in a locked garage and the gear is in there and the car is locked, the garage is locked, then it's covered. So you really have to inform yourself what conditions apply. You should always have insurance, even if you are not paying people, because it's your production in the end. It's your responsibility to keep people safe and to have this in place. If you've learned something so far, please consider subscribing, like this video, and share it with friends. Casting. Now you've posted your adverts maybe 2 weeks before. Applications are going to roll in. You should just leave an email address that's just dedicated to your casting process, so you don't mix it up with other stuff. Once you've got your applications, you choose the ones that you want to invite to your casting, and then you send them 1 or 2 sample scenes for the characters so they can prepare for the casting. That saves you a lot of time, and it also eases them into it. So you can have a customized email for every character, so you don't have to do the work all over again. Add the scenes, and thank them for their interest. Inform them where the casting is taking place. Inform them that you would like them to prepare, to dress as they think fits the character. It's very important. You can already tell if they get a sense for the character or if they completely misunderstand them. And ask them to come like 15 minutes early. And ask them to confirm that they can make it on this date and on this time. Then during casting, you first let them play the first scene that they've prepared, and then you do some corrections. That's absolutely vital. You have to correct them. You have to say, okay, thank you for this performance. I really appreciate it. And now could you please change this and this and this? Not 10 things, but at least like 1 or 2 things that they should change. Why is that important? because you're the director, they are the actor, and this is your test to make sure that they actually are able to implement what you're trying to get from them. So that's like the basis of your collaboration. And if that doesn't work, then it's not going to work. So I've had this happen. Most actors are open, or they might also ask a question back, which is totally fine. But if they are not engaged, if they don't react, if they just do the same thing again, even though you've asked them to alter certain things, that's a red flag. Because how are they gonna take anything seriously that you ask them to do on set if they can't do it in casting? Because in casting they're actually on trial for the role. They haven't got the role yet, so their effort should be very high. And sometimes they just don't get it, or they don't care, whatever it is. But it's just, for you, it's a very important signal. Can they implement what I'm asking them to do, or can't they? And if they can't, don't pick them. Once you've done your casting, it's time to move on to getting the rest of your crew together, finalizing locations, making sure you've seen every location and not just seen it. In location scouting, you need to have yourself as the director, a head of camera, and a production assistant or unit production manager or AD would be even better. They can take notes, they know what to look for. So basically, which toilets can cast and crew use? Where will we set up makeup? Where will we set up wardrobe in this location? Is there any problem with sound? And then for you, director and camera, you also have to do the blocking for each scene. You might not have to do that sitting in the location, because you can take some pictures and do that in a separate sitting, but still you need to have seen the location, so you know how high the ceilings are, how wide, how much space there is, all those things. You also need to know where the power outlets are, how much power you can draw from there. Important, because if you really light an interior location, it can be too much for the circuit, so you have to bear all those things in mind. So once you've done all the location scoutings, talk to everyone owning the locations, like what are the conditions, when are we moving into the location, when do we have to be out again, by what time at the latest, and we're estimating this time, but it might be this late, is that fine, blah blah, all those things. Once you've done that, you can also finalize your schedule, because now you know which actors are going to be on board, when they're available. Crew should always be available, because they don't get any breaks. They have to be available on all shooting days from start to finish. The location permits, like once you visit the locations, make sure that the people owning those locations sign a permission slip, and it should also say no charge if that's what you agreed upon. Also important in terms of budget is, how do you get your money, do your budget together? If you have like $500 and you now realize it's going to cost more than that, what are your options? You don't have a track record yet, so it's going to be hard to get grants, but sometimes there are grants that are especially for first-time filmmakers, or if you're a teenager, for teenage filmmakers. You just have to do the work and Google it and inform yourself what's out there. And it's possible that there might be something out there for your production, for your film. Step number 6, I already mentioned this, but you have to talk to every head of department in advance. Get to know them, A, and B, just be on the same page with them, what your vision entails, what you need from them, what do they need from you. Do they have all the material? Do they have all the gear? Is it clear what the whole process is gonna be like on shooting day. So especially with your camera person, you need to have a shot list. You really need to prepare and sit down and think about breaking down every scene into shots. Thank you for sticking with me this long. I'm gonna close with some common mistakes to avoid. One thing you always have to avoid is be lazy, don't prepare, and winging it on shooting day. That's not gonna work out well. You're gonna end up disappointing people and also missing some shots potentially and not getting through your schedule. I can predict that, especially if it's your first film. If you want to take this seriously, then prepare. Same goes for scouting all the locations. If you don't scout all the locations or don't talk to all the owners in advance and know exactly which rooms you're able to use and for what, and like where the bathroom is, all those things, you're gonna end up in a chaos. Not feeding your crew is an absolute no-go, and people are not going to work with you again if you do that. Just as much as skipping rehearsal or blocking. What is blocking? Blocking means making sure you know who is standing where in which scene and where the camera is and so on. So those are some common mistakes to avoid, and you've heard them now, so don't do those things, because those can all be avoided if you just take the time and take it seriously enough to prepare. Thank you very much for watching. In the next part of this series, I'm gonna go into filming and all the things you need to make sure of before you start filming. So how to prepare exactly for shooting day in the perspective of the director. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one. And thank you for watching. Until the next one. Bye.